This is the Middle School Genetics Workbook. It has 40 days of lessons and 176 pages. It includes reading passages, worksheets, activities, 2 experiments, and some assessments. The topics that are covered are Gregor Mendel and his pea plant experiments, dominant and recessive alleles, genotype and phenotype, how to solve Punnett squares, homozygous and heterozygous, non-Mendelian inheritance such as incomplete dominance and codominance, and inherited and acquired traits. The necessary supplies, they're very minimal in here. Here's the complete list right here. Nothing too crazy or hard to find. The PTC paper test strips are the most uncommon of all the supplies, but they are very easy to find on Amazon or other retailers online. They're also very cheap. I got mine for about $5 for 100 of them. The pacing guide walks you through 40 days of lessons. You start with an introduction, and then you read about Gregor Mendel. A lot of times you'll have the content and then questions over the content, and then you dig deeper into it. Go into dominant and recessive. There's also fun things along the way that are kind of out of the box thinking. Different coloring pages that are not just color the picture, it's reasons behind coloring it. Card sorting activities, so the students would cut out these and then classify them as dominant or recessive traits. Here's one of the experiments with those PTC test strips. Involves some graphing as well. So you kind of see the different materials here. Each section has an assessment at the end to make sure your student is on track before moving on to more complex material, because all the material does build upon itself. So if there's a breakdown in understanding, you want to catch it early so they are not lost later on in the workbook. Detailed lessons on how to solve the Punnett squares and plenty of practice with it. And then you get into some stuff that's a little bit more fun, like making a fairy, where they would use dice to roll up the chances of different genotypes and phenotypes. And then once they have what their fairy looks like, they would cut out the appropriate phenotypes, color them in, and glue them onto the scene. And there's another one, so if your student doesn't like fairies, maybe they are interested in goblins instead. And then moving on to more content here. Homozygous and heterozygous. Got some monsters going on. Here's the second experiment in here. And ways to reflect on it. Got some dog traits. And farm animal genetics. Here's a project where your student would have 3 different options on how to make their organism. They might make a physical model of their organism with, anything they have on hand, craft materials or whatever. They could use AI to make a digital model, or they could simply just draw it and color it on a piece of paper. And here's the example of how to do their project, and then all the project pages and a reflection on it. They would come up with their own inherited traits that they can visibly see on themselves. And then they would talk to either family members or a group of people who are unrelated, and also complete the activity. Research a different trait of their choice. Codominance and incomplete dominance. This is kind of a tricky concept, but I think that these pictures here really break down the differences in what they would look like in an organism. Fun little unicorn coloring page showing the simple Mendelian inheritance, codominance or incomplete dominance. A vocabulary review game. If you've played Taboo, you've played something similar. And all the necessary cards for those. They can make their own cards. Here's a quick few pages of review. Some stations. There are multiple ways to do those with your students. They can make their own stations, and then it comes into the test that assesses everything covered in this workbook. If your student really enjoyed genetics, they might want to learn more or do some more activities, learn about different genetics that they might see in their own lives. Glossary, and then all the answer keys, so you can make sure you understand it and they do as well. All right, so that is the genetics workbook.